What's up, guys? So we're gonna do an episode about preferences because people don't know what the fuck that means actually. And I'm not usually curse that much, but I am so sick of hearing that word preference used in the gay community. It is without a doubt probably the most infuriating thing to deal with aside from them not knowing what racism looks like. But that's another subject in itself. So we're gonna just talk about preferences and how they're. I'm gonna talk about how the word is misused in our community, especially because, man, the way they use the word preference, they throw that damn word around like it's just like a frisbee, like, oh, preference, my preference, my preference. And like, no, like, preferences are a very specific thing. And I feel like the gay community has elongated that they've redefined what preference means. Because preference means you prefer one thing over the other, but you don't exclude one thing over the other. Like, they take the word preference and they misuse it in place of exclusion, which is the real word they want to use for a lot of things. But let's just talk about preference. So a preference, I would talk about that in the context of dating relationships. That's one of my favorite topics. So you see on a profile where your preference is, and people have, height preferences. No, I date people who are this tall. I date people who are this short. They have like weight preference. Like, I only date someone who's this big or this someone's this small. They might have, eye color preference. Like, I only date someone has this eye color. Or they have financial preference. Like, I want someone who makes this amount of money every year. Or educational preference. Like, I want someone who has this level of education. Fine and dandy. But saying I prefer this doesn't mean that I exclude everyone who doesn't meet that. So, say for instance, you say I only date people who have bachelor's degrees. Doesn't mean you want to date someone who has an associate's. Or you wouldn't exclude people who have an associate's. You just prefer a person who has a bachelor's. Like, even on a job interview, like for a job, it says prefer, bachelor's, but we'll accept, this amount of years of experience, stuff like that. There are ways around. Like, okay, for the fact he doesn't have a bachelor's, he has this amount of experience. Same with dating. Like, yeah, you want somebody who has all these things, but that doesn't mean you're going to exclude people who don't meet that qualifications. And that's another thing I want to throw in here too is the standards. That's another part of competition too. But yeah, preferences are very like one or the other. You prefer this, but you're not going to exclude that. Now, the gay community has a way of using words, turning around to fit their own individual, like, fuckery. I'm going to curse a lot in this video because I'm just very passionate about this particular subject and all spectrums of it. So we're going to get all into it. So gay people who use this word preference, they use it for everything. Like I only date this person. My preference is, they say my preference is this, but they really mean I only date this or I don't date that. So you see preferences like All-American. Like, what the fuck is All-American? Are you Native American? Because that's really what All-American is. That's another subject. But anyway, they say like All-American or, into chocolate or, just all these weird, stupid, paraphrasing ways of saying I only date white people and I'm white. Like, it sounds ugly to say that. That sounds like some Jim Crow shit to have someone say I only date white people, whites only. But that's what it is. Like, let's just take the Band-Aid off. When you say things like I don't date blacks, I don't date Hispanics, I don't date Asian stuff, just say that you are Jim Crow dating. Whites only. Whites only allowed to fuck you. Whites only allowed to have sex with you, date you, be around you, all that stuff. Just be open. Just say Jim Crow. I wish they just put Jim Crow on there. I just know he only dates white people. They try to spin this around like I only date like European looking person. But black people could be European, so that's dumb right there. Asian people could be European. That's the whole thing about British Asians. Like, yeah, so just say what you really want. Just say you only date Anglo-Americans. Like, that's a better word because that specifically is white. Like, there's no gray area. There's no misinterpretation. Anglo is definitely specifically white people. So I just hate seeing the word preference thrown around to say you don't. Or, let's take away from race for a second. Let's just say my preference is, fit guys. they'll say preference is fit. What they really mean is they don't date fat people. Like, I would never date a fat person. Like, that's what they really mean. They're excluding fat people from the conversation, but they say I prefer. You don't prefer, you just don't date anything but fit guys. Like, just be honest with your trash. Like, if you're a trash person, if you're superficial, if you're racist, if you're like all these other things that are horrible, just be open. But it looks bad optically. Like, it just looks terrible. Like, it's like, oh my god, he's racist. Oh my god, he's shallow. Oh my god, he's this and that. But that's what you're doing. Like, I just don't understand mincing words and stuff. Like, all these semantics about preferences and stuff, it's just like you're excluding people based on racial or physical characteristics that some of this shit's just really shallow in the first place. But I think the most insidious thing is the racial part, because you're excluding a whole race of people based on probably a whole lot of stereotypical, ingrained, like, brainwash program that has been done throughout the entire age of American society to begin with. Like, the prevailing, like, image of black people is very skewed to one thing, and it's usually something negative. Same with Hispanic people, same with Asian people. Like, all this propaganda about races is based around white supremacy, all other stuff. So for you to say, well, it's just my preference, you know, I can't help who I'm attracted to. Actually, you can if you really try. Like, if you start to, like, not just, you know, date the only person, or date just white people, and actually try, you might change how you can change you can change how your brain works. Like, that's, your brain is not like this independent thing that you can't control. Like, that's crazy. Because if that were the case, there would be a thing called psychology, you know? Like, people who have phobias of stuff. Like, you can go through therapy to help you deal with phobias of things or other parts of your brain that you have no control over, supposedly. So this idea that you're attracted to what you're attracted to and you have no control over it is really dumb, it's really stupid, it's really ignorant, and it's unfortunate. And I hate the fact that it's such a prevalent thing in the community. Like, it's dumb. Like, you're gonna say, oh, I don't date black people because of this, that, and the third. Like, you can have all the things in common, you can have everything you want, and I couldn't date because he's black. Like, that's racist. Like, just cut the bullshit. Like, that's what's racist. It's racist down to the, because your reason behind not dating black people because you're not attracted to them is basically because you've been programmed from birth to only see that white people are attractive, white people are only ones that are desirable. That's just it. Like, that's the long and short of it. Like, I'm not taking the preference thing anymore. The preferences are, just say you're Jim Crow. Like, if white gay men just say, I'm a Jim Crow dater, like, I would be way more like, you know what? Let that racist asshole stay over there. But this whole, like, dancing around the issue, like, I only date this because this. No, just call it what it is. Jesus Christ. Okay. So, we got established what real preferences are, which is like, you know, height, weight, and stuff like that. And saying you only date people who are fit, that's shitty, but that's nowhere near as bad as race, because that's like you exclude everybody. And then the thing about black people, or the thing about any racial group, like, they look totally, you can be a lineup of like 5 black guys right now, and they will all look incredibly different, but they're all black. They can be different shades, different types of like phenotypes, different types of hair texture, different types of facial features. Everything can be so different. They can all be black. Same with Hispanics. They could be like 5 different ways of the way they look, and be 5 different people. But you're saying all Hispanics are not desirable, not attractive. That's stupid. That's stupid. That's stupid. I don't care. I'm not trying to hear it. If the word black makes you unattractive to a person, you are racist as fuck. Like, cut the bullshit. That's just the end of that. Okay, so we got through preferences. I think that's all there. Yeah, preferences are things you prefer, not excluding things. Like, that's not the way that word works. The gay community has completely hijacked the word preference as a means to justify their own racist, bigot, discriminatory ways and stuff. And it's just, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Like, I hate it. And on the flip side, let's talk about this in a different way. So, of course, we know that white people who decide that I'm only going to date white people is racist as fuck. But I'm going to play a different perspective on why black people only date within them, why minority groups may only want to date other minority groups with them, or just exclude white people in general. The reason why that is because they're trying their best to fight against an oppressive society. So unfortunately, dating someone outside their race is for them. Now, this is a personal thing. I think a lot of black people feel like if they do date outside their race, they are not being their best black self, or they're getting into the system. Pretty much, they get into an oppressive system by dating someone who is oppressing them. So for them, they want to keep everything they possibly can within their own community. That includes love, that includes businesses, that includes money, all that stuff. So that's their like their way of activism. That's their way of fighting against the system. And that's not, I mean, it's discriminatory, but it's nowhere near as insidious, because when a white person doesn't want to date a black person or any other race for their own stupid reasons, like, that has a really negative impact because they are the dominant race. When a black person doesn't want to date a white person, that has no real bearing over that has no bearing over the collective of white people in America. That doesn't change the status quo at all. By no means. Like, if a black person, I don't want to date white people, nothing's going to change really too much for the white person at the end of the day. If a white person says a black person don't want to date them, then that spreads, and they're going to just reinforce their own supremacy on everybody. So that's the difference. So when you see a black person only date black people, they're not being racist. That's just not the way this is going on. They may be discriminatory for their own personal reasons, but they're not racist. So it's a lot of it's like self-care too, because they're trying to fight back years and years of oppression by loving themselves and loving other people who look like them. So yeah, it's a silent protest pretty much. It's a political statement. Like a lot of things, unfortunately, are political statements. Just thriving in America as a black person, and a black gay person, is a political statement within itself. Because the system is made to pretty much put you at the complete bottom in an unfavorable situation. So for you to thrive and be happy is a protest within itself. That's activism, just not in the way that most people think of it as. So you see a black person that's gay who said I only date white people, don't take that as a personal jab against you. Take that as that's a jab against whiteness, and that's a jab against the status quo. So don't take it personal. It's not you. It's not about you, okay? It's not always about you. Alright, so that's my video on preferences. So hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back with some more videos eventually. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed all these videos. And yeah, I hope this enriched your life in a little way. Alright, thanks for watching.